Jesus Freak here. Now, with textual criticism, we often try to simplify things, and most of what we talk about textual criticism and the Bible is specific to the New Testament. The matter of the Old Testament is something quite a bit different. You see, where with the New Testament you basically have three groups of texts. Texts similar to Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, texts similar to the received texts, and texts similar to the Vulgate. With the Old Testament, it's a bit different. The Vulgate translates an early prototype, I guess you could say, of the Masoretic text. So it's basically in the same line. And the other competing text base, generally speaking, is the Septuagint, which is Greek translation. Now, there's been some King James only types. I believe Ruckman was a real proponent of this idea that there was no Septuagint, that, Oregon pulled it out of his butt. But as I understand, there have been some pre-Christian manuscript fragments found. So at least, to some extent it absolutely exists. And the Dead Sea Scroll fragments tended to provide evidence that there were basically two different Hebrew strains. There was one recension that evolved into the Masoretic text as we know it, and there was another that got translated into Greek. So we'll find the occasional fragment in Hebrew that lines up with the Greek, or we'll find the Samaritan Pentateuch, which is a cult version, but is still in the original Hebrew, and sometimes it lines up with the Greek instead of with the standard Hebrew. So, sometimes there's evidence to a different text, but the issue with textual criticism is a lot different. And it's less important overall, because nothing dogmatic is affected, and it's usually just small details. You're not going to run into the kind of major variations, with the exception of there's some different editing of Job and Jeremiah. But for the most part, the text's going to pretty much agree between your Greek, your Hebrew, and there's a couple Aramaic translations. It's pretty much going to all agree. And to this extent, what translation you use for the Old Testament is less an issue as what translation you use for the New. Because for the most part, they were all translated from the same source, which isn't necessarily true for the New. Yeah, you got your exceptions. The Eastern Orthodox Bibles translated from the Septuagint. the Challoner Bible's translated from the Vulgate, but almost every translation is predominantly translated from the Masoretic text. So there's going to be a lot less variation from translation to translation, and you're not going to have as much of that confusion issue that you have with the New Testament. So I just thought I'd bring this up, just because there was some questions on another channel I follow regarding Bible translations, and I just wanted to make a point that it's the New Testament where the important issues really fall. Jesus freak out.